what happens when we have a bar, for instance, and we just stretch this bar, okay, in uniaxial stress? Well, initially we have zero stresses, zero strain. That's what we call the original reference configuration or neutral stress state behavior. That's the virgin material, right? This is the virgin, the material that comes from the factory, a rod of steel. And then we just stretch the rod, and then we see a branch, a zone, where the behavior is elastic. Elastic meaning that the stresses are proportional to the strains. So if I double the stresses, I double the strains. If I triple the stresses, I triple the strains. The stresses then are proportional to the strains in that saying, and the slope of this curve is typically the Young modulus, right? That is what we call the elastic regime. And that is what it can be applied to what we have seen in the previous chapter, and it can be generalized to 3D cases as we have seen in the previous chapter. Instead of E, we have the elastic tensor and blah, 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 okay? But it's also observed that when we arrive for a certain material, every material in principle has a property which is the Young modulus, but also what is called the elastic limit. The elastic limit is some threshold. When we arrive at, does the material break? No. Does the material, exhibit ill behavior? No. Simply, it changes the behavior. Why? Well, first we observe that it becomes non-linear. So proportionality in terms of total stresses is no longer remain. In other words, the tangent, the slope of the constitutive curve is no longer constant. Rather, the tangent of that, the slope of the curve, decreases, okay? Decreases. But the material still increases strength as we increase strain. So in other words, if we say after this stress, the material breaks, we are underestimating the load carrying capacity of the structure, because the material can resist much higher stresses, okay? But in a different manner. The material can no longer be modeled just by elasticity. It needs to be modeled in another way, and in particular this change of a slope with respect to the elastic domain. And secondly, another effect is the one that I commented at the beginning of the lecture. If arrived at a certain point, so applying certain stress, I release the stresses, of course the material loses the stresses, so the material goes to zero stresses, but goes to a certain permanent strain that is not recovered. Is the issue that I said before, right? If I had the original material, that is the original material. If I just apply small strengths here, small stresses and strains, everything is recovered. As I release the stresses, I release the strains, and so on. Beyond that point, if I produce some additional strains, and I arrive to that point, then when I release the forces, the stresses go to zero, but the strains done. Okay? This is what is called permanent strains after stress removal. That's something that characterizes plasticity. The fact that after load remotion, the strains don't become the original ones. There are some permanent strains. I anticipate that these permanent strains are called plastic strains. So this takes us to the first fundamental equation in plasticity. The strains now can be split at any stage of the load response curve, or the stress-strain curve, can be split into two parts. One part is that part of the strain that is going to be recovered upon removal. So look, the strain here was all that, right? And after removal of the stresses, the strain is here. So I've recovered all these stress. this stress has been recovered. Okay? This stress is called the elastic counterpart of the strains. This strain is called the elastic counterpart of strains. And the remaining strain is called the plastic strain. So always we are going to take this as an axiom. The strain in general is the sum of one recoverable part, which is the elastic strain, and one irrecoverable part, which is the plastic strain. These strains are generated in different manners. For instance, as I move here, as I move in this branch, the material stores strain, right? But if I remove the stresses here, all the strain is recovered, because that is the elastic part. So I would say that here, no plastic strain is generated. In the elastic domain, in the elastic range, this plastic strain is zero. That takes us to the classical elasticity theory. We didn't do any split in the elasticity theory. We said the strain. We didn't say the elastic strain and the plastic strain. But look, as I enter in the nonlinear domain, or in the elastoplastic domain, I'm generating some plastic strain too. So now the strain is going to be the elastic one that I had been generating in this part, and some one that I'm generating in that part. Okay? So at this point, the total strain has the elastic part and the plastic part. What is the stress, the part of this strain that is going to be recovered after remotion of the stresses? The elastic stress. This strain is going to be recovered after removal of the stresses. But what is the part of the strain that is going to remain? The remaining strains that I cannot remove, that part here. Okay? So the concept of plastic, non-recoverable, unrecoverable strain, and elastic strain, and the sum of both is equal to the total strain. Look, I mean, very attached to that is the fact that if at this point I unload, so I diminish the stresses, the behavior doesn't come back in that way. The behavior is that. So the material follows this law. This is what we call, as I told you before, the elastic unloading branch. When I increase strains, we call about loading. When I decrease strains, I call about unloading. But you know that the unloading is incrementally elastic. So if in this point here I am unloading, am I incrementing a little more the strains, that is completely recoverable. That's an elastic branch. Elastic branch, which means that incrementally is recoverable, the strain. Okay? And what happens when I come back here? I'm moving up? No. I'm moving following the original curve. Okay? So this is the type of phenomenon that I want to represent, which is not easier. So I have to represent the elastic domain, the plastic domain, the plastic branch, an elastic branch. This is an elastic branch, and this is also an elastic branch, because incrementally they behave elastically. And this is a plastic branch, okay? And some other phenomena. For instance, the famous Bauschinger Effect. Look, imagine that we have a material which is elastic, right? So a bar that comes from the furnace of in the factory, and it's a material which is manufactured by the first time, what we call the virgin material. Okay? Imagine a rod of virgin material, and imagine that we just make experiments with that rod, first in tension and then in compression. What do we find? Well, we find in tension an elastic branch, as we have seen before, and in compression a symmetric elastic branch. So in general, we can say that in metals, I'm talking metals, other metals is not like that, and other materials is not like that. In metals, we find that the strength in tension is equal to the strength in compression. Equal. And that means that the limit elastic limit in compression is minus the elastic limit in tension. Okay? But that is for the virgin materials. Now imagine that I have one of these bars, and instead of remaining in this initial domain, going to plus sigma e in stresses minus sigma e in stresses, instead of moving the stresses in that domain, I just want to trespass, to go beyond. So I increase the stresses beyond that point. And then, of course, I notice what I've anticipated, the nonlinear branch, the plastic branch. Okay? And then, at a certain point, imagine that I want to unload, because I just pull the rod, and then I release. I know that I'm going back through an plastic branch, elastic unloading branch, like that. So then, when I arrive to zero, so when I release all the stresses, I have lost all the stress, but there will be a plastic strain, which is a quantity. We know that. Okay? And now say, well, if I now, starting of this point, so after having done all this process, so loading, going beyond the elastic domain, releasing the stresses, and then getting to this point, okay, I give you to I sell this rod after this stretch procedure, okay? So I sell to an engineer this rod, and I say, well, here you have the rod. And the engineer says, well, what are the specifications of this metallic rod? Well, the elastic limit is that. He said, well, I'm going to do an experiment with this rod. And he doesn't know the history of that. He just thinks that he's starting here as if it was a virgin material. So it puts the zero here in terms of the strains and starts pulling the bar. And he sees that the elastic domain, of course, is no longer, the elastic limit is no longer sigma e. Is sigma e plus something else. And after that, it moves like that. So the guy says, no, these specifications are wrong. Because now the elastic limit is not the one that you have told me. The one is that which is something, the original plus something. And you say, well, because this is not a virgin material. This is what is called stretch in cold material, estirado en frío. Okay? What is this, that process I've done? Well, I've increased the tensile elastic threshold of the material by submitting it to a previous stretching process. That is done. In fact, the bars that you used in construction, in reinforcement for concrete, are many times stretched, so that these stretching procedures increases the apparent elastic limit in a real magnitude. But is that for free? Well, if that guy now takes another bar, that same bar, and well, I'm going to do the analysis in compression. And now he senses that what he has gained in the tensile part from sigma e to sigma f, f comes from flow, plastic flow, right? Then he sees that in compression, the elastic limit in compression has decreased. Okay? So that was not for free. Of course, if we are talking about reinforcement bar, which are designed to work in tension, that's good, because it's never working in compression. But if we do that in other contexts, we have in danger, because now this material has some accumulated history that makes that it behaves differently than how it behaved when it was virgin. Okay? That is called the Bauschinger effect. So if there was no Bauschinger effect, now for this material, the elastic limiting tension, the flow stress in tension, which apparently is the elastic limit of the material, would be the same in compression, and it's not. That is the Bauschinger effect. Okay? It's also called the kinematic hardening. Okay? So that's the Bauschinger effect. So we want to represent these all effects, right? We want to represent that. So that is a more difficult task. So that is the effects that we want to represent. First, the loss of linearity, the lack of unicity. Look, the same stress can be achieved by this strain, but also by this strain. All these strains here can be achieved, these stresses here. For in elasticity we say one stress, one strain. But in plasticity, we can arrive to that point through that process, loading and unloading, arrive to that point, and then this stress, the same stress, is achieved by this strain in the virgin material or by this strain in the stretched material, in the accumulated plastic strain material. And what is the most specific of plasticity, the existence of the plastic strain.